Hey everyone, here we are for Presence, day number 33. And today I want to talk about the best sorts of meaningful conversations. What are the ingredients? And I thought about the fruit called mango. I remember meeting someone one day who said, "Oh, I hate mango." And I don't know, for some reason it stuck with me for a long time, maybe because when I was a kid, we had like the biggest, best mango tree ever, like in Miami. Like, I don't know, probably could have won awards. Maybe because I come from an Israeli family where we ate a lot of fruit. Israelis are really big fruit eaters. And when you get fruit that's grown in the desert, because there's not a ton of water, it's usually very sweet. It's a little bit more, it's not watered down. And then I was thinking about, fruit, if you eat it when it's underripe or when it's rotten, you're going to think it's bad. So it made me wonder. For years, I wondered this. I wondered if this guy like hated mango because nobody fed it to him at the proper time. I mean, sometimes I go to like international supermarkets and I don't understand what it says on, in Chinese or in Arabic or whatever, or in Hindu, and I don't know, or in Spanish, and I don't know what I'm buying, and I'm afraid to buy it sometimes because I don't know how to eat it. Like, is it like, because I can tell when a banana is ripe enough to eat it. So if I end up not liking it, is it going to be because I don't know when to eat that fruit, or is it because I just really don't like that fruit? And so I want you to think about this. The JBL trifecta, right? So here's how this relates. So when we think about spiritual connection, if you think about someone who has, hey Heidi, if you think about somebody who's been like abused, that would be, in their spirituality, like somebody used God against them, like you are a sinner and you are bad, and God's going to punish you if you do what you want instead of what I want. Basically, is the bottom line. Um, that would be a rotten fruit, or if somebody didn't get enough conversation or experience of, let's say, ritual. I just heard a quote. I don't know who said it. Brene Brown was quoting somebody else, but I couldn't understand what she was saying, so I'll have to read the transcript. It was something like, it's ritual that sets us free. And that is such a paradox, but it is so real. It is just so real. It's ritual that sets us free. So if you think about just the topic on the top of spiritual connection, and you think about it being like a fruit, you want the fruit to be a fresh fruit. So it's not underripe. It's not like a crunchy, sour mango. And it's not overripe. It's not like fermented and, going back to the ground and turning back into dirt, right? So spiritual connection is supposed to feel good. It's supposed to feel juicy. It's supposed to feel alive. It's supposed to feel yummy. Think about your favorite fruit. So spiritual connection here, in my definition at Joy-Based Living, it's a feeling of belongingness to the universe. You belong here in a universal way. If you think about healing trauma, let's talk about the same metaphor with healing trauma. So an underripe fruit would be somebody who doesn't want to ever touch their shame or their feeling of powerlessness. And therefore they can't heal from it because they don't want to touch it. And so they don't exercise their power in a healthy way. They are they're confined to the trauma responses that are automatic: fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. So if you talk to someone like that and go, let's talk about your trauma, and they're like, oh, no, and they run, or they want to get a drink, or they want to whatever, because it's scary to even think about it. It's like you touched a sore, or you got close to a sore and they ran away. Or the other side of it would be what would be the rotten fruit would be maybe someone who thinks about their trauma too much. That would become a rotten fruit, right? Because the point of healing trauma is self-connection. That's the whole point. I could have named that circle self-connection, but I don't think it would have communicated. I think sometimes we need context to communicate what we mean, and self-connection as opposed to what? As opposed to trauma, which is disconnection from self. So an underripe fruit and overripe fruit, we don't want either of those. We want to be with ourselves and with people where we feel safe to talk about our trauma and who aren't invested in us living and wallowing in our trauma. There are some people who are invested in other people's being continually traumatized because they benefit from it. Maybe they continue to need therapy, or they continue to need medicine, or they continue to need the other person, right? People who are afraid of abandonment might misuse that and create an overripe fruit there. So healing trauma is supposed to feel good, the way that you put a Band-Aid on something and you go, oh, okay, now it can heal. You give it air and then it can heal. Because self-connection is supposed to feel good. Self-connection does feel good when you're not afraid of what you're experiencing emotionally. How are we doing so far here? Then we have peak performance. The underripe fruit there would be a feeling of shyness or embarrassment over, about being around other people, being in the world, being yourself, being authentic among other people. An overripe fruit would be, being overly confident, but, and overly bragging or something like that, but not really being authentic, using that as a replacement for authenticity. Peak performance is I'm showing up as me, being fully who I am in something that I love to do or love to be. Here's what I'm good at. Here's how I'm showing up. So for me, doing these videos is like a ripe fruit because I'm very interested in the topic. I'm interested because I care about me and about others who are interested in this topic. Now, and because I'm interested in experiencing greater levels of joy, and I can't do that by myself in a vacuum. And the more of us who understand that, who understand the components of joy-based living, these are people who understand, who care to understand what it means to be fully presence, right? Presence, spiritual spiritual connection, self-connection, and connection with others. And so I'm going to give you one more thing where I want you to stretch your imagination here. I'm going to keep the colors on here the same as I print them into the future, but for this moment, at least I'm planning to keep them the same just because I like them. But I want you to imagine a different coloration for a few minutes. Imagine if spiritual connection was white, if healing trauma was black, so we have white and black, and peak performance, being among others in the world, is red. White, black, and red. For some reason, that extremeness of coloration helps me when I think about other people with whom I can experience the most joy are people who are comfortable in the white, in the red, and in the black. White, red, and black. And so if I'm around someone and they're comfortable with their own trauma, and therefore they're comfortable with mine, they're comfortable with their own spirituality, therefore they're more comfortable with mine, because spirituality is not religion, it's a feeling of connection, right? And so there's not an investment in somebody being who they want me to be. And so it's about welcoming a person's authentic experience with spirituality. And then white, black, and red, and then the red being someone who is comfortable with their own sense of greatness and beauty and radiance, and then therefore they're comfortable with mine, and they don't feel intimidated or envious of mine because they're comfortable with their own. And so what I'm trying to do here by being more specific in how I'm naming this is I'm trying to help you be able to recognize why the most enlivening people in your life are as enlivening as they are, and how you can assess people who are new in your life in terms of what you want to welcome. Because what I want you to be able to see is that these ingredients together are the components of a space that allows joy to thrive. These are the ingredients. And when joy is thriving, it feels ripe. It's like fresh fruit. It's ripe. And I love fresh fruit. I love ripe, fresh fruit. And I want you to enjoy all of these ingredients independently and together. What we do here is we talk about all three in depth, in height, and as a shared experience. And I don't know of any other place that I can do that out there in the world. I know where I can have conversations on one or two of these, or a combination of two of them, but I don't know where I can have combination of all three. And what I'm learning is that joy is most fully free to be itself and to fly and to flourish when all three are allowed. I'm going to bring one more piece into this and then we'll bring it to a close. What makes this conversation unique, and maybe the reason I brought the white, black, and red into it, is that when it comes to healing trauma and self-connection, we go to the depths of complex PTSD here for anybody who needs to. And that is an invitation for a deeper level of freedom. I know for me that level of darkness made me feel more need to connect here because I didn't have spiritual abuse, thank God. So that made my light even brighter, or my desire for more light even brighter, if that makes sense. And to be able to have this kind of conversation and go, okay, how do I take those two things and then bring my authentic being into the world? I'm asking this question about myself, but it's an invitation for you to ask this to yourself also. How does this all help me bring my fullest self into the world? And where can I lean into for more muscle? And what fruits can I pick that are ripe to pick? I hope that makes sense. Am I getting too metaphorical? Maybe I am. I don't know. You can use this also as an assessment to ask yourself, where was I a few months ago in each of these areas? And how far have I come? How far have I come? Where have I stretched? I mean, really focus on the positive, like just like a little kid, like when they're learning to walk, every step they take, you're like, yay, like really make it that easy to win, because it will just encourage you to do even more, because that's how the brain functions. Ask yourself, how far have I come with spiritual connection? A little bit, a lot, or with healing trauma, with self-connection, or with expressing myself in the outer world, peak performance with others. So the word ripe, the metaphor fruit, and the JBL trifecta. The ripest, juiciest joy is what we're aiming for within ourselves and within the relationships that we have with each other. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here and for giving me the space to generate this really beautiful conversation. I wouldn't be here without your desire for it. My gratitude is just out the roof, through the floor, and all around the house, and all around the globe. Thank you, and I love you, and I will see you tomorrow.